We are activists. We will see the world in a way we want to, and we will not see the world where we don't want to. The truth is very binary. For animal rights activists and for vegans who are vegans for animal rights, it's very binary. Tomorrow, even if I have to go hungry, but I don't eat an animal, our conviction takes us till there.
Meet Radhika Datt, whose love for animals led her to build India's largest vegan dairy brand. One Good has become the top choice for its vegan dairy options and is found in the kitchens of thousands of people today. In this episode, we dive deep into 3 core insights into how Radhika built a mega dairy brand.
I think, Radhika, let me start by understanding a little bit about your childhood. Like, how was that? And I want to kind of see where the veganism kind of got birth in your life. How was that like?
I was born and brought up in Bangalore, very south Bangalore. I'm as Kannadiga as it gets. I grew up in a vegetarian family because of, caste and class reasons. It was inbuilt in our, food. Vegetarianism was built in as food. But where my family took it a step further was they were able to connect animal usage in a lot of different places. So I remember at the age of 8, my grandmother giving up silk saris. I remember at the age of 10, us realizing that the Bata shoes we have to buy to go to school is actually leather. And we were already at a very early age able to realize how systemically pervasive animal usage is. And we gave it up wherever we could. Every time we passed by an animal being used for entertainment, the language of the family would change to, "Oh, Papa," "Oh, so sad." We were immediately made aware of this other being's pain and their sentience. So that was the bedrock. In 2013, my sister, who's a very influential person in the family, she started reading about veganism. And as usual, she would come and give me all these tidbits saying, "Oh, this happens, that happens. Do you know this happens?" She told me about the information. I let it simmer for a week. And then she came back and she said, "There's this movie. And I Googled these documentaries. And just the thumbnails and the images and the description was like, I cannot watch this. And then I said, if I cannot watch this, I have no business consuming it. And that's when I decided to go vegan. So for me, it was an overnight decision. I woke up one morning and I said, I'm done. That was about 8-9 years ago now. So yeah, that's kind of been the story.
But what happened then after school? How was professional life for you?
I finished my high school. I enrolled in commerce as my 11th and 12th. And then I decided to do my CA in parallel with my BCom. I did my articleship with the Big Four, with KPMG and EY. So I did that. After my CA, I remember demonetization had just happened and I interviewed with Prime Venture Partners, which is a VC fund based in Bangalore, but they're a Mauritius fund. And so I worked with the VC fund for 3 years. They were phenomenal and they were lovely. They knew I was vegan. So, it was as small as making sure there was a vegan option available in an office event. It started off with acceptance that way. And then by the time, Good Milk was starting to roll around, I went to them saying, I want to do something like this. I think there's white space in the market. I have found a co-founder and, they were like, go for it. You should do it in parallel. Give it a shot. Tell us no. And they knew that it would make me a better employee if I did this. And by the time I took it to a stage where I said, okay, now I need to do it full time. They were all hugs and love. And I think so that was 2018.
What was the conviction point for you that, I want to start something?
I had been vegan, I think, for 2-3 years at this point. And the vegan community in Bangalore was just amazing. Back then, it was still small enough that they would do weekly potlucks in Cubbon because we didn't have enough vegan options to eat out with our vegan friends. So we would make our stuff and sit down in Cubbon in a zero waste environment, pick up after ourselves. It was just a lovely community. So I remember I met my co-founder first at a vegan high tea party. I met him there. And so we really hit it off. I hit it off in that we disagreed. But we disagreed well. And it was a very intellectually stimulating conversation. And so I followed him and, we kept in touch in some sense. And he and his mother had actually started making some of these products at home. And one time my sister ordered one of his products. So that's how I knew it was very loosely in existence. And actually we had started speaking at the same time that he was saying, okay, we should incorporate this now and sort of take it forward. And at that point, I think what originally I had said is, look, you're doing something. My skill sets are financial. So what I will do is come and do your numbers. That's how Abhay and I started talking. So that's where I came in. I think Abhay had an idea of product. He's visionary. His mom has a very good sense of how ingredients work. They've been vegan longer than me. They've been vegan for 13, 14 years now as a family. So they understood alternatives in a way that I still didn't. So he had that. But I think when we came together is when we realized this can be a business and this can make sense. We can try Tetra Pak. We can try curd. We can try packaging. We can run this as a real business.
Hi YT fam, I know Radhika's story is super interesting, but before we get ahead, I have something super special for you. If you are in product, marketing, strategy role, or even a founder, understanding how your product drives revenue is crucial. That's why we have created the 4-week growth program where you will learn the entire A to Z of growth. You will understand how to acquire customers, how to onboard them, retain them, and last but not the least, monetize them. The program starts on December 1st and we only accept 50 members every week. So hurry up, the link is in the description. And now coming back to Radhika's story.
How were those early days for you?
I think the first few weeks, it was Abhay, Divakar, Disha, and me. We were still figuring out what kind of a product portfolio we wanted to build, because at that point, I think there were some key insights from the plant-based industry that we had seen. One was that it was an ingredient game, and ingredients had become the differentiators. Now, it can be an ingredient play, it can be a brand play, it can be a price play, it can be a combination of these things. So I think early on, what we felt was there needs to be one decent product. Pretty early on, we said we're not going to play an ingredient game that way. We're going to pick one or a blend of one and stick to it. We were and continue to be the only blended milk in the market. We started off with cashew oat because at that point, in India, there was only soy. We needed that level of fat. We needed that level of creamy. But India is a value-sensitive market. There is no way I would have sold an entirely cashew milk. So we needed the oats to balance it out. And oat is a very nice nutty flavor. And then, of course, later in the years, we were the first ones to bring out millets into our milk. So later it became cashew oat millet. And it continues to be a blended milk and is the only blended milk in the market.
So it's very easy to build something for communities, but like when you're building a company or incorporating something and you're like, hey, I want to make this big. Where was that conviction for you that, because this is not just a play of existing people trying something, but this is like you need to acquire new users, give them a new preference, like create a new habit and have them even consider you. How was that for you?
We are activists. We will see the world in a way we want to, and we will not see the world where we don't want to. So I think I'd be lying if I said, I had all this conviction or we knew that we're going to hit these scales. We did not know. But our activist side is really strong in that way. And I think the truth is very binary for animal rights activists and for vegans who are vegans for animal rights. It's very binary. Tomorrow, even if I have to go hungry, but I don't eat an animal, our conviction takes us till there. So my conviction was emotional. It was a confirmation bias. So the conviction initially came out of a bubble we all lived in. And it was a bubble that was constantly popped. But the conviction just literally came from the fact that I needed this product. Abhay needed this product. Disha needed this product. And I think another reason we were so sure is because you can't be selectively vegan. Like if I'm vegan for coffee in the morning, it's not like I can eat curd in the afternoon. So when you start making milk and a customer comes back saying, I've actually switched out of milk, but I'm not able to switch out of curd. Then our activist side would say, okay, now we have to give them a curd because that's where the animals are getting harmed now. So conviction kept getting built the more we needed a product, and the nature of what we were doing was such that if somebody consumed one aspect of our portfolio, they would want to move on to the next part of that portfolio. And that would become our product pipeline.
I think this is way too in, but this is the perfect time to actually ask, like, what is One Good? Like, help our listeners understand what exactly were you building?
Very simply put, my elevator pitch for One Good is it's affordable, accessible, functional, vegan dairy for the Indian context. Affordable was there, number one, because we came from fairly middle class backgrounds. And if I told my mother I'm paying 300 rupees for milk, she'd say, you leave the house. Accessibility, of course, because we had vegans in Jammu. We have vegans in like the remotest parts of the country. Had to be accessible, which means it had to be shelf stable, which means it had to work at like volumes. It had to be a 200 ml pack because I cannot convince somebody to buy 6 liters for me to make it worth it. Functionality was very important. Again, this milk now, almond milk, if you boil it a lot, it would split.
Let's talk about distribution. How did you do this? Like what was the evolution of it?
So we started off in Bangalore. Towards, I think by 2023, we were in all 5 major cities: Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Bombay. We'll only ship shelf-stable products. Everything else is only Bangalore. Now again, it's a community product. So it's not like there are any fewer vegans in Bombay. So we had to serve them. We had to serve Delhi. So we started off by setting up distribution centers in these places. We'd start with 1 delivery person on payroll. Maybe at 2-3 delivery people, we would hire a warehouse manager. Typically, one of the delivery personnel who is now growing into that role. So we've promoted internally constantly. Towards 2023, we were in all 5 cities. Each of them had a warehouse manager. Each of them had a set of at least 3 to 4 delivery personnel, depending on the city and the real estates. The sizes of the warehouses differed, the locations differed. We moved between quite constantly depending on where businesses were shaping out to be. So very nimble on distribution. Definitely continue to own a large part of it, which was a huge burden on our working capital, but it gave us so many consumer insights. It was crazy. Some of our best repeat purchases is when Lokesh, our first delivery person, our consumers knew him so well, they'd just give him the order, and Lokesh would come back and say, "Madam, actually, you should set up a system where I can sell to them and incentivize me to sell to them," which we did. And I think even Suhasini in Yoga Bar talks about this, about how the Kirana store owners became their biggest sellers. And I think our delivery personnel became very strong sellers for us. What I'm talking about is largely B2C distribution, because 50% of my revenues come from D2C. Now, as activists and as vegans, we realized that I need vegan options when I go drinking with my friends. I need vegan options when I go to dinner with my family. I need vegan options when I go to a supermarket to do my monthly grocery shop. So there we were like, B2B has to happen. Within B2B, Horeca has to happen. So literally, our Horeca pipeline would just be, what are the cafes and bars and restaurants that we visit? Can we activate them? And that's how it started. And global events were also helping. There was a lot of interest around this. Now Horeca sees it as a moneymaker, which I'm very happy with. So we also start getting a lot of inbounds. So Horeca continues to be a very strong presence for us. We do use retail. We've been on all the fancy modern retail, I would say Nature's Basket, Food Hall, these sort of things, which we saw as discovery tools because the margins don't work out. For a price capped product, modern retail of that way does not work out like at volumes. It's a discoverability tool. And what we've learned now is that somebody has to see a brand online 2 times and at the store 2 to 3 times, and then they will pick it up. So I had to find a way to make you see me on Instagram and make you see me at Ratnadeep, which is how we view distribution. So we've split it into B2C, B2B. Our sales are typically more or less evenly split or somewhere around that skew.
How are you looking at brand? What were you focusing on? Value? And what did you say that, hey, this is not now, maybe for later?
If you could talk to Indians as Indians, they love it. The Indian context really helped. It defined the words I used. It defined the colors I used. It defined my packaging. It defined who I collaborated with digitally, and it defined my language in that I had to be friendly. I had to show a lot of faces, and they had to be Indian regular faces eating Indian regular food. That was a cornerstone of our brand, and it really worked. Of course, Indian, but also in our packaging, you'll see it was minimalistic. Quite a minimalist design. We chose blue because blue is a calming color. We were very aware of masculine and feminine identities coming out. Our packaging is blue, minimal, very clean, easy content. We're not talking down to the audience. We are not exalting ourselves. Functionality is very important on our packaging. And this is because consumers are still confused when they pick up a product. And if it doesn't tell you how to use it, you will put that product back down. And gone are the days where you actually pick up and say directions to use at the back of pack, because now we're so used to zooming in, you can't even zoom in and you're just so out of this, right? The colors were easy. The fonts were rounded but straight, because if you see plant-based milks on a retail shelf now, there'll be almond milk, cashew milk, this milk, that milk, blah, blah. Ours is the only one that just says milk. And somebody would pick up simply because it's not saying what the others are saying. And that's what I wanted our packaging to do.
We never spoke about revenues where they are right now. So what are those numbers looking like?
over the last 4 to 5 years, we've crossed like the 11-12 crore mark in revenue. We've reached 75,000 customers online. We are present in 5 major cities. We are present in most major chains offline. Our split has remained interestingly the same. People are still buying us online and eating us in restaurants. Employees wise, we went from 4 to at the top, we were 50. With out of the 50 people that were on payroll, 12 were corporate and the remaining were all distribution and warehouse. And I think that just shows what it takes to build a distribution business.
So Radhika, what are some of your lessons, having done this for about 6 years now? What are some things that you would love to share with other founders?
Brand play is not a differentiator. Be realistic with yourself. Be honest with yourself. If it's a brand play, do it differently. The consumer will see if you're using brand play to say your product is special. Let the consumer pay what they're willing to pay. We decided to assign value. And maybe there we went a little wrong. I would like to listen from the consumer why they're willing to pay more, why they can't pay less. Can some people pay more for some things and some people pay less for some things? For new founders, be very aware that you live in a bubble. You need to wake up and feel like what you're doing is very important. But when you go to sleep at night, remember it's not that important. What everybody else around you is doing is also very important. Equally important, sometimes more important. Sometimes what they're doing is letting you do what you have to do. I think we don't often speak about the toll it takes for the loved ones of founders because we're never available, we're irritable, we're stressed, there are employee fights that are happening that have put you in a whole different headspace. I was not available to my family during those years and they were patient about it. So be aware of that confirmation bias and that echo chamber you get into.